But once I realized that like we're all in the same boat, rowing the same direction, I just got to ask the right questions. And it was like I literally, then I lost the fear of looking stupid. And then I think that's a game changer for anyone.
And you're listening to our weekly sales show here at Breakthrough Brands. Brandon, welcome to the show.
Thanks.
SWF, a manufacturing organization, an amazing company. And the reason why I want to interview you, it's not because of what you do as manufacturing, but it's yourself as a leader and the culture that you bring to the organization as well. So I'm going to start off with one question. Define culture.
How it feels on Sunday night.
Well, on my Sunday night, I'm tired. So
I mean, thinking about Monday.
Thinking about Monday. Explain that.
So when you go to bed and you're like, I have to go to work tomorrow, and you start, I'm this way. I process what I'm about to walk into. And is it task oriented? Is it motivating? Is it like, it's still work. And I'm very aware of that. Or is it terrified, depressing, sapping of energy, not like just the worst place to go. And it's going to be somewhere in between there. And I hope it's more towards the mostly positive most of the time.
This is not for you, but for the employees. Is that what you would be saying? Because yes, we do know of people having that anxiety of going into work on a Monday and not enjoying it. You know, they're going in just to draw down a paycheck. How does a company, or how have you sort of, like I've spoke to some of the people in your team and on the factory floor, and they love coming to work. So how do you get the balance right? And what do you need to do to get it right? Because it's not about you, it's about them.
I think what's interesting is I don't see a separation there. Like if something's annoying, it's probably annoying to me as well. Like, yeah, it's so interesting about culture. I think I call it this mythical beast that we're so afraid to slay and even look at it. Like it's this thing that's untouchable, and how do we solve it? And it's not really a solve thing. It's just like, if you start asking people what sucks about this place, you'll get real answers if they trust you enough to give you that answer. And if you get that list of things and you just start fixing some of them, it can be that easy. The other piece of it is my equation is very simple. Happy people are efficient people. So the happier everyone is, and that can be large scale or small scale, it can be pay, vacation, lunches, how long they are, all of the things that go into a year of working at a place, the easier that is, helping to solve their home life, helping to solve the financial, helping to solve their day-to-day, the easier that is. I know when I'm not carrying baggage from home or at work, I'm a highly efficient person because I'm just cruising and I'm in a great mindset and space. I want that kind of for everybody as much as possible every day.
What's the fine line between making your staff happy and being productive?
There is none.
You know, so
what do you mean?
I want to be happy.
Sure.
But I'm sitting here having an extra coffee because it's making me happy. But, you know, there has to be a measurement of rewards as well, that going, okay, we can be really happy, but we also have a deadline.
Yes. So that's where KPIs come in, right? So you can have flexibility, options, and accountability, I believe, under the same roof. It is not easy. You have to have a lot of no blind spots to make that work correctly. But if you want to give people flexibility, one of my favorite phrases is, let's just be adults. If we can all be adults, this gets a lot easier. So if you're going to do that, what KPIs can we make sure of? This is what good looks like for us. And then there's clarity around that. And then you just deal with the 1 or 2% that can't do that, instead of making rules for the 98 that usually work fine, but you just don't want to have difficult conversations with the 2%.
Get it right in the very beginning. Did you lose staff?
Yeah. I mean, it was more of a in the boat, not in the boat, right? These are non-negotiables. Some of that is like, this is the way we're evolving. This, you know, if you fit the culture long term, and it's really defining the culture. And then the people who don't evolve to fit it quickly stand out.
Yeah, because I wrote a post there on LinkedIn a while back, and it was to do with, you know, I always have the open door policy. And when I was coming into an organization, there was toxicity. And the people that kept on coming to the door with complaints, I turned them away. And I told them only to come and speak to me if they had a solution. And they left, and the energy changed. And the company came into, which we call flow. Do you believe that, you know, SWF is in that flow moment at the moment?
I think so. I think it's a really good question. It's almost like a runner's high, where everything seems to be One, you have to find your cadence of controlling the work. I don't think you can hit flow state unless you kind of have control of all aspects where all of your blind spots are not blind anymore. For instance, sales was probably the last thing that I started uncovering because it's my weakest area, because I knew the littlest about it and I didn't know what good looked like. So until we hired a coach, i.e. Joe, I needed to know what good was in that section and then starting to understand sales and marketing. But yeah, I think you just start working through areas and you need to make sure that you have perspective of peers. You can ask people outside the organization. You can bring different ideas and then redefine what your good is and just keep kind of processing through that. And then once you do that, I think that flow comes from kind of serenity in all different parts of the business.
So then jumping into you as, you're the CEO of an organization which is just under 200 employees, it's a multi-million-dollar company. How do you then deal with your tasks? Because your daily tasks is, you're up at 4 a.m. in the morning when most people are rolling around for their second nap. And you're very much driven by KPIs and measurement, and you have tons of meetings every day. When you have so many people, how do you map out your week so that you are in flow and you're relayed? Because the fish rots from the head, and you've built a culture, and you've so many things moving on. How does that impact your day?
It's so funny you say that because I'm reviewed just like everybody else yearly amongst my ELT or executive team. Like they go through the review and they score me like everyone else in a review. And it's so interesting because a lot of the time we're not sure what your day-to-day looks like. We just know a lot of it's working and you're coming up with crazy things. So one, I think in the seat from a strategy perspective, you have to have gaps where you can really just think about crazy stuff that'll kind of push you to the next level. I love meetings. I love lots of people in meetings because I think diversity of thought really drives innovation in some of that space. And then people feeling comfortable to bring up crazy stuff. So KPIs, I think, drive leadership to decide where the fire and where they're needed. So when you're flying at 30,000 feet, if the KPIs are all strong and look good, then you can just stay flying and stay strategic. Now, the moment you see the forest fire, you have to dive in, get involved, get in the details. But the KPIs allow you to stay hovering so you don't have to stay in details all the time. At least that's my view of it.
KPIs are built not to show problems. They're there to see how you can be better. So you, as you said, you have the executive team scoring you, and from speaking to your team, you're doing something. You're always somewhere.
Usually not somewhere. It's usually in this room doing something.
Is he cloned? No, I think they cloned him. Do you get much time for yourself?
Yes. Yeah. It's interesting you mentioned about 4 a.m. because I'm a morning. If my day is perfect, I'm a 4:30 to 5 in, 2:30 to 3 out. Because I love my evenings. I like to mow. I like to walk the dog. I like to game. I like to do content in the afternoons. I like to podcast with people. Like all of that is my creative time that I can get to be me more than the social, highly accountable. And I love that stuff. But sometimes that ride of being overly social is a drain for me. So this space of having control of all that is way more comfortable. So yes, I do. I take that stuff very seriously. It's probably why my limit's about 60 days in this seat consistently. And then I need a break of some sort. Either that's a long weekend or a vacation because I start turning into someone that's not the best version of myself for what the company needs. I'm glad I found that threshold early because I think if you start getting in a space where you're over your ski tips, you're going to start making emotional decisions or insecure decisions, and those can be hugely detrimental.
Yeah, we can create habits ourselves, but when stress is involved, we automatically can drift back to old habits, the ones that we've tried to ship on. So that break is important. You mentioned being creative. And as we move into 2026, a lot of manufacturing organizations, they're working on the floor, they're trying to bring in business, but they still haven't really learned to adapt to the new way of social media and what that can do for their companies as well. You've spent week on, week off with your team in different departments doing stuff that you've never done before, as the new 16-year-old walks on to the shop floor and they said, go over there.
It was probably worse than that.
To go over there and get me the long stand. Do you remember that?
Yes.
So why did you do it and what did you do?
Sure. So I spent 7 weeks. I think I started in July and I ended in late November. I had to break it up because I still had to do my day job in between that as well. So I spent 7 weeks in each shop department. So that included all the 5 departments, plus logistics, plus maintenance, plus did I get everybody? Yeah, I think so. So 4 reasons. One, many of the people who sit in my seat at these companies came up through. They know exactly what to do, how to weld, how to build things, how to fabricate. My COO, Brian, as you've met, is amazing. His hardest thing was going from building something with his hands to building things with his mind all day long. It was the hardest switch for him. I came in knowing absolutely nothing. All I knew was construction and project management really well. That was my key. So one, and I wanted to learn that and have some idea what that means. 2, perspective of what they go through. So I got to feel hot and cold. I think was very important. A 97-degree day in the shop when you're welding is quite shit. And so I wanted to make sure I knew what that felt like, so that what are our solutions moving forward, and also what is our customer demands in those timeframes. And we need to say, that's funny. No, we're not going to do that because you don't know what that feels like. 3 was street cred. It's very simple. I told everybody that. 1, you all will hopefully appreciate me being really dumb out here and trying to learn this. And that's what came out of it, because it was a learning exercise for me. And then 4 was the marketing effort. The Clueless CEO Chronicle video series I thought would be a hit. And I wanted to document because I thought it was quite weird what I was doing.
It was. I would see a video popping up. Yes, look, he's doing that wrong. And someone ringing up and going, that's not our job, is it? No, we only have him on an old practice donkey in the corner.
Exactly. I only worked on 2 production pieces that entire 7 weeks.
Yeah. So one of the things that it is, and you are very good at adapting, and look, you have your own podcast and everything, and even the stuff we've worked together, which is the SWF podcast, which is launching next year. Why did you take on the role? You said project management, you said construction, and you've been in the business a long time. Why did you decide to take on the role as, the top dog in SWF?
Situation, circumstance, best, worst option.
Perfect.
Mostly my father-in-law was going through health issues, and succession planning wasn't top of mind at that point in time, or the option that we thought was laid out. And, I was never the option. So it was really just around the circumstance that the family was going through. So that's really why. It's one of those things where that's what I find so fascinating about the potential. You kind of got to take that leap of faith sometimes to maybe reach that next level, what that's supposed to be for you. And I definitely wouldn't have realized what I'm capable of without that opportunity. So
what have you learned?
Humility over anything. That'll get you faster to trust than anything else or any other program you could possibly imagine. Realizing that everyone will teach you something. Everyone. Listening more. Books are your friend, even though I hate them. And you can probably learn anything in today's age with the internet and AI. And if you really just want to have a passion for a deep understanding of something, there's always ways to probably sort that out now. And peer groups. Ask tons of questions to people who have done it. And don't be afraid to look really stupid, because it makes you human.
Yeah, I think the worst thing that someone can do is pretend they know everything and stop learning. Horrible. Look, I'm in my mid-50s, and been in sales for 30 odd years, and I still challenge myself, and I still look at things and I go, okay. So especially in complex sales and tech, that you always have to keep learning and listening to your peers. And talking about your peers, you're in groups as well, helping other CEOs. What's the one correlation that you find with CEOs that you're speaking to within the market? The one thing that they all seem to revolve around, that, not, I don't say problem, but a concern or an issue.
We're all trying to figure it out.
And what's it?
Whatever it is.
We're going to play the it game.
I think it's just whatever the next problem is in whatever sphere you're in, or state or maturity level, whether that be as a leader or as a company. I think when I entered our Vistage group, I probably didn't talk for the first 2 months, which is very difficult for me. But it's because I thought it was so outside of my depth. And then as you listen and learn for those first 2 meetings, I remember it being we're all in here just trying to do our best and really surrounding ourselves with smart people because we just want to get better every single time. That's what surprised me most.
I think it's I would put it to confidence, that self-esteem and fearful of making decisions to look stupid.
Mhm.
And when we work with CEOs and founders, we always find that they know everything, they really do. But it's just that doubt to kind of go, okay, I know and we've said this before, it's about knowing what you know. It's about knowing what you don't know. And then it's getting someone in to fix what you don't know.
1,000%. I think that whole concept of like, you're not alone. What's really interesting is I think academics or academia, whatever you want to call it, is very competitive by nature. I think school, I remember being a very competitive arena for me. And maybe that was just a me thing. But I played team sports. And so I had that avenue of it. But when it came to academics itself, I felt it was very competitive. And it probably took me 2 years in my first job to realize I didn't have to figure everything out myself. I could just ask questions to people who were better at it than me. And I don't know, that could have been a me thing, just figuring that out too late and having a light bulb eureka moment. But once I realized that we're all in the same boat, rowing the same direction, I just got to ask the right questions. And it was I could literally, then I lost the fear of looking stupid. And then I think that's a game changer for anyone.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are fearful of, putting themselves out there looking silly. The one thing is, it is about asking the right questions, but it's also learning from what you're asking, because what you're trying to do is speed up time. It's all something that saves you time on it. 2020, we know that video seems to be pushing right through to many different industries. A lot of people are unsure on will it work for us, but the mass is moving in that direction. You can even see it with the likes of LinkedIn, and LinkedIn is exploding. I think the email is suffering because there's these AIs and all the blocking and everything. So the likes of video and messaging is going to take full effect. What is your thoughts on what manufacturing companies should be doing as we move into 2026 to embrace social media and especially video?
I think personal branding in general, I don't think I thought 2 years ago when I started taking it serious how explosive it would become, especially for people who executives who don't normally live in that space comfortably. But what I'm learning, and let's just stick with manufacturing or construction in general, we have a people problem. We don't have enough people. We probably will never have enough people for the amount of work that's coming. So one of the scariest things is either going into the industry as a new person coming directly out of school, or if you're going to make the switch, how do I know where I'm going is not going to be worse than where I am? It's the scariest question you have to decide, right? Is the grass actually greener? Well, if I can go online and look at the direct leader of that company and know after 92 podcast episodes exactly what this person is about, I don't have fear. And we do videos about shop floor, talking to our individuals. They can see what it looks like, how clean it is. Is there lots of lights? What kind of technology? What kind of welders do they have? You need to be giving away all the things of what it looks like, because that's, I think, the biggest cost of entry for a lot of these folks.
I think it's going to be the year of trust. It's really, and you said it, that people now, I was on a podcast the other night, and it was a motor trade podcast. And we were talking about, people now only go to 1 or 2 dealerships where they used to go to 6 or 7, and people have already done their homework before they even speak to a sales rep. In every industry, you having, shown the walkthrough, like on your website, of the shop floor, or the interviews you're doing, or the welding or something, these all consciously and subconsciously offer trust into the people's minds that then when you have a conversation with them. And one of the things that I feel, there are certain industries that are really slow to embrace it.
Construction, everything.
I would say manufacturing, construction. SaaS is because they're in that sort of space. But it's those industries, someone said, the industry, they're the ones. And if they don't, they're going to be sort of left behind. And that's the issue with it. What advice would you give to someone, a founder of a manufacturing company? What would you say to them? Just do it.
Yeah, first I'd probably talk about fears and get those out of the way. Like, what are you actually afraid of, right? So some of the things that our folks said was like, are we going to really put a whole 3D rendering of our entire shop on our website? What if our competitors go on there? I go, what if our customers do? You know what I mean? Like, does the upside outweigh the downside? And really, actually, all of our local competitors we're starting to work with a lot more because there's not enough people to do all of the work. So the US is going to have to figure out, are we going to stay competitive or are we going to be collaborative? Because we have one choice. This isn't the 90s anymore, and we're going to have to figure it out. So two, I would say, I think the trust thing is really interesting. And what I would touch on that with that is be human in your content. Make mistakes, leave them in. Don't polish it. Don't put filters on. Be funny. Like people are going to want to see that because there's not enough of it. Everybody's putting the best version, AI filtered version of themselves out there, or not even putting themselves. And that's going to dilute, and we're going to see something that's strange and broken, and we're going to go.
Yeah. And we're putting something out now, just myself and a guest just breaking our hearts laughing. And I was using, as you know, you and me, we use Riverside, and I use the AI eye contact in Riverside. Sometimes I look like, the eyes light up. I swear I was on some sort of drug. Even the head goes that way.
Yeah.
So I think it's about being raw. Your customers.
Yeah.
Competitive. We talk about, it's complex sales. We talk about procurement managers. We talk about engineers. There's a lot there. One of the things which, for yourselves is value. Forget about price. Forget about everything else. It's the value that you bring. Describe that to me, what you see your value being.
Value to me in our world that I don't think gets enough props is the consistency of people, process, expectation, quality, all of the things that I think make a project highly successful and more profitable for both sides. So that could be attrition rates. That could be what the culture looks like. That could be SOPs on the floor, quality assurance on the floor. Just the way the employees feel about the organization is going to feed back into how they communicate with customers. I think all of the soft skills, I don't think we put enough onus on how important that is for the day-to-day operation of when things get heavy, which they always do in manufacturing, construction, and industrial. And when the worst day, how is our team showing up? Because those are the ones you're going to remember. It's never like the good projects are never the ones anybody remembers. It's when you're in the trenches. How do we show up? How do we fix what we did wrong? How do we hold people accountable, even if you don't want to hear it? Like all of that stuff matters. But I think you have to have a really sound home base for that kind of stuff to come through.
Yeah, it's it's the relationships that you build. And one of the things that we always find is that when we meet new clients, they go, the procurement manager, the man we never see, the guy that doesn't exist but writes the check. I said, well, you have to look at it his point of view. If he screws up, he gets to blame.
Yes.
Right? But he has to rely on the other people so he doesn't screw up, because if he goes against what his team are saying and just goes in for money and the job goes, arseways, he gets to blame. But if he relies on his team and then signs a check, and if it goes arseways, he blames them, But it's making sure that people always have this procurement. I said, look, work on the people that you have, speak the language, show not just the price, but the insights and the value and everything that it brings to the table, and then deliver that. And you'll get the deals will shorten in cycle, and you'll get more of them across the room. Do you agree with that?
No, I do. I think that's brilliant. And I also would go back to our content conversation. Some of these project or purchasing managers, probably all they would do this. Before we go buy something or purchase something from somebody we don't know, and if our job's on the line about it, it's probably going to be even more important than just going on Amazon, reading a review. So what are you going to do? You're going to go to the website and you're going to go to LinkedIn and you're going to look up what they're doing. If there's a ton of video talking to the actual people, getting to know them as human beings, like you're like, wow, they're really like putting it out there. Like they're not hiding from things. Doesn't that give you more confidence and like they seem legit, right? And it's like this person interviewing everybody on the floor is the CEO. That's weird. Why, they must have a real relationship with people. Okay, that garners must be a stronger relationship and values and culture. And like that stuff should just manifest, which is why like you got to let people in. That does include your competitors, but it's going to include your customers too.
There's good customers and bad customers.
There sure are.
There sure are. Yes, they are. And, there's good people and bad people.
There sure are.
It's like dating, and as I say, I was saying to someone this morning and said, look, you may meet someone, you date with them, and then after a while you find out they're an ass and you dump them, and they go, yeah, we've all gone through that. How do you deal with that? How do you deal with, the problematic client?
I think internally we have a very strict set of we do everything we can to do the best thing for the project, which is usually the best thing for the customer. But at the same time, you can't just keep giving the farm away and can't say yes to everything. So I think having a set of rules that as a company, this is how we do business because it protects the organization and the people working here, which is most important because without all of us, it doesn't exist. So you have that line, but when you come up to the really hard 50-50s, I always try to lean in with, we got to get to some place where we both win something in a win-win scenario. And outside of that, good culture, good values, good foundations should lead you mostly to the right path.
What's the future for SWF?
Right now, a lot of work, growth, continuing to mentor the young adults who are coming into the industry, which is amazing. Really, and it's just, we're in like you said, flow, fine tuning. I love tiny efficiencies. I love those micromanagement moments. I love finding these little pockets of things we can do better. I feel like we're in that space. Equipment upgrades and really just investing back in people is kind of where we're at until, if we have a next major thing coming, I'm not totally sure, but it's busy. It's busy.
What did you get wrong to get right?
Lots of things, because I run before I should walk in most scenarios when I'm really excited about something. I've done tons of things wrong, but what I've gotten comfortable in that is it's okay. And the team's okay with me failing in those spaces. So I think doing something wrong, beating myself very, very hard about it, or slowing myself down, getting really smart people involved so then they go yay or slow down. That is what I've noticed. I've added guardrails to my work process with smarter people than myself in the areas they need to be.
But I think that's part of it is for a business to grow. Companies hit plateaus. Why do you think they do? And how can they break past it?
I think you reach the height of your maturity level. And what I mean by that is that maturity level, unfortunately, goes across probably everything in the organization. Maybe it's safety, maybe it's quality, maybe it's project management, maybe it's executive, maybe it's strategy. But you reach that, and until you read, gain perspective, join a group, talk to somebody smarter, you gain some information that brings in an innovation or a diversity of thought, and you go, eureka, let's try that differently.
What advice would you give to CEOs out there?
I don't know. It's a really interesting question. I don't really feel like I fit that mold. I think there's a lot of power in showing more of yourself. But I'm also super comfortable with content. And I know not everybody is, but I think there's a lot of power because it is unusual still for executives to be online. But that is also a huge advantage.
I think it's changing. I think that a lot of people, we know that YouTube is watched more than normal mainstream media TV on TV, and people are wanting to be educated. So there seems to being this more people wanting to be educated to get better. I think where self-development it's a $1 billion industry. People want to get better at what they want to do.
Agreed. And I think we know that the solo person in their room most likely doesn't have an agenda that's being pushed. They're just trying to do what they think is right at the time.
Book club.
Yes. Next one's coming up. Joe, you want in?
What is the thought process behind it? And, we know that you have a couple of books that you recommend as well. So why the book club, and what do you recommend why people should do it in their organization? Forget about that.
Yeah. So book club came about because I hadn't read a book since forever. I'm not a reader. I don't like reading, but I read a LinkedIn post where someone was mentioning Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People. And they said it changed their life. And there must have been keywords in there that really stuck with me in that time frame I was in. I was trying to obviously figure out relationships or do better at them or something. And so for some reason, I bought it and read it. And I remember going halfway through and I was like, holy
I need to share this.
I said, this is changing my outlook of every conversation I'm going to have moving forward. And I said, if this is this powerful for me, why I got to let other people know about it. So I asked some people in the office. It was totally, you could say yes or no. I let them know, I'm not telling you have to do this. So we had 6 people in the first one. We read Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People. Then we did the same book again with a little bit of a larger group. And then I was like, well, let's just open it up to the entire company and see what happens. So we had, I think, 33 or 35 people sign up. And essentially, we read through an entire book together. It'll be 10 to 20 pages every Monday and every Friday. We meet for a half an hour. You decide whether you want to be a part of the speaking crew or just the read along crew. And then we pick randomly 6 people that talk for 5 minutes in those 30 minutes about the chapter, about what they read. What's fascinating about it is, one, you'll read the same chapter as someone else and get completely different context on the same words that everybody read, which is beautiful. 2, it brings a lot of empathy for people who don't normally get to work together. So you'll have somebody on the floor hearing from the timekeeper or somebody in the admin department. They'll be like, oh, I didn't know this. Or when I see them at the thing, I can ask them about that. Like, it's just, we become more human beings instead of just annoyed about something really stupid. And for 30 minutes, an hour a week, for however many people are in the group, and $350 worth of books, it is the greatest team leadership, personal growth class I think you can buy on the market.
And the next book is Withering Heights.
It's actually 5 dysfunctions of a team, I think, is what we voted on. So
yeah, it's picking that. And I think it's great because one thing about a book, everybody sees it or hears it differently, and then you get to different aspects. And I think what the beauty of it as well, you get to understand how other people think within your organization.
You start to understand what everybody's been preaching is like, put yourself in someone else's shoes. You actually get to live it, right? For months on end, because you're like, how are they seeing this in these words? I read the same chapter. And then you're realizing like, there's so much to learn from other people.
Even when you're you go, what?
Yeah. The best meetings, Joe, are when people get on the mic to talk and it's their turn and they're just like, this chapter destroyed me. In the sense of like, my outlook is so wrong based on what this book is telling me. And I can see the light of how it could be so different. And that growth trajectory of just like, then you're taking conflict differently. You're taking bad days differently. You're not putting it on other people. Like, that is efficiency. That all equates to efficiency.
It's funny because I, would say to organizations when they create a proposal for a client, I ask them, are you writing the proposal for you or are you writing the proposal for the client? Damn. And they look at it and go, I'm actually writing it for myself. I says, and that's what you're doing wrong. You have to write it for them.
I actually love that, Joe. I don't know if you told me that before, I apologize. I didn't gather it, but that's really brilliant because I'm actually looking at revamping our proposals, and that question changes my entire mindset.
Yeah.
I was being selfish.
I
would buy this in a heartbeat, Joe. Why won't I?
Look, I've even put 2 bells on it and a whistle. It's a case of, it's like I tell the story about the manufacturing organization that wins the deal. And the other company rings up and says, why didn't we get it? And they say, well, you only just gave us one price. And that's all that you gave us was all that we had to work off. Where the others gave us something which we could relate to, and we couldn't talk about the different pricing structures. And that's the difference. Write it for the person.
Their problem. Yeah, I know that's so simple. You can tell I'm not a salesperson. Operation, I'm like, it works. It fits. What's the problem?
Ding. Yeah. Last question before we shoot off. What's the best business advice you have ever received?
I would say maybe it's not business advice per se, but it is the experience of having a peer group. Having a group of people to ask the questions that keep you up at night, and having a place to process them with people who potentially have already done it is an absolute superpower. It'll make your trajectory so much easier.
Yeah, I think we can sit somewhere and we can bash things out and think about this and think about that, but we need a peer group to actually jump into and say, hey, let's have a conversation here. And those people will give you feedback, and that feedback will be crucial, and you'll walk away not with the idea stretched, but with confidence to know that you're doing the right thing as well.
Yeah, I can remember a very specific issue processing that we were going through, and I started out, because it's so wonderful, it's state what the thing is, and I stated what the thing is, and then the group asked questions, right? And as they're asking questions, the revelation was what I stated wasn't the problem, right? And I was just wrapped in my own shit, and I was just like, that was so liberating, enlightening at the end of that, to really focus in on that I could go fix, because I couldn't fix it because I was on the wrong thing. And it was just like, here we go. And then it's like you get out of that mud, which allows you to grow to that next level.
That's it. You'll have everyone knocking on your door now wanting to work at SWF industry.
On down.
They have free ice cream on Fridays.
We did this year.
I'm watching actually Call Saul from Breaking
Oh, Better
Bad.
Call Saul, yeah.
Better Call. It's brilliant at the moment.
I heard it's amazing. I haven't watched it.
I just started watching it, and it's comical. It's comical on it, but yeah, it's all the gangsters queuing outside of his office and everything. Yeah, free ice cream. Yeah.
Odenkirk's just brilliant. He's brilliant.
Brandon, thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me. It's amazing.
It's